Okay, hello everybody. Today I'm going to just show you some drawings from UCF, some examples of this homework drawing series, the self-portrait and the skeleton. I'm going to show you some of my drawings, especially some of my student drawings that I think will really help you out. Um, so let's just get started with this contour line study of a skeleton. I think this is a prime example of a great contour line study. You can see where they did their initial basic width to height measurement using these red reference lines, using that point of the pelvis as the furthest point to the right, furthest point to the left being that point of the skull, high point being the point of the skull, low point being this low point of the humerus. You can see where that shifted. You can see where points at the back of the head moved around, where they were looking for how that skull actually moved. You can see where the vertebrae have moved, where they've drawn a contour line and erased it and pushed it back. And you can see that same thing in the humerus, where they've really been working on that shape of the humerus, that arm bone. And if I recall correctly, what the red pencil is that they were drawing that with their opposite hand. So again, does not matter what hand you draw with, it just matters that you put your pencil point on the paper and really commit to not looking at the paper while drawing. I mean, you notice the line quality here where it goes from thick to thin, dark to light. More important areas are emphasized over less important lines. As you can see in the scapula, the shoulder blade. So the student really is starting to use this process very to describe form very well. And many of you might be curious or not quite understand why I stress these reference lines so much. This has been done throughout all of, well, through a good chunk of art history, let's say. Here's Michelangelo doing that same thing, or using a straight line from the brow of this woman down to the chin, looking for that negative shape made by the face and the nose and the lips, trying to get these points in relationship to one another. Artists have been doing this since to help them get these points in relation to one another, right? In the proper relationship. And it all starts with that panel drawing that I had you guys do, at the beginning of class, where we're looking at just the 4 points of the panel, maybe a piece of paper. In this particular example, there's a couple pieces of paper, I think a book, something like that. If you really practice that simple drawing problem of looking for those 4 points, it can become the foundation for everything else. Here, it quite literally has become a foundation for a still life that's on top of it, with a tube, a box, a sheet looks like. And here, that whole principle of looking for those 4 points has been used to draw the entire interior of a room. So here's a drawing I did, standing on a mezzanine of a studio space that I was in, looking for all these different relationships of points. Think about that rectangle of the railing as one of those panels, and everything in there is kind of like a panel. So if you learn how to draw that panel very well, you can draw almost anything. So here you can see the student's first drawing on the left versus a drawing after instruction on the right, using reference lines of measurement. Same thing, first drawing on the left, uninstructed. Drawing after instruction in class, drawing the easels, those painter boxes, cow skull, sculpture stands. Same thing here, 6.5 hour drawing, likely over the course of two class periods. Excuse me. Okay, I'm good. I'm good. All right, here you can see all these reference lines being used to draw all of this, creating a surface using those reference lines. It's activating the entire page, the entire sheet. Here, you can see the student actually really plotting those points using the inner cross to make those points very clear, what points they're looking for. Where the skull meets this tube, the points in that cow skull, the points of this table that's sitting on top of the model stand. Same thing. just using points, reference lines, a little bit of straight line inspection, red pencil, white pastel, same materials you all are using. Here you can see students' first drawing on the left of the model, really from that symbolic area of the brain, right? Obviously, we see like the, the watch, the proportions are kind of strange, and it's all just sort of stuff that we can name. That's what's drawn. Look at the drawing on the right, starting to actually describe form using the line to help them look for form, using the reference lines to actually place stuff in the right areas, and also having fun with color, using the pastel to separate the walls from the floor. Again, first drawing on the left, uninstructed, instructed drawing on the right. So that's October 3rd, similar area that we're in right now, halfway through the semester, using points, reference lines, contour line drawing. Same student. Here's a student's first self-portrait on the left. They knew something about contour line drawing, tried to describe something that was happening in the cheeks and in the jaw. But again, look at the eyes, the nose, the mouth, very much drawn in the symbolic way. Really just this sort of simple shape that not really looking. Look, compare that to the drawing on the right, where they were really putting their pencil point to the paper, looking at themselves, and using the line to try and find the shape, looking for every little nuance, not putting something they think they know on there, actually using drawing to help them see. Great example here. First drawing on the left, only symbolic information, right? The little wiggles of the hair, eyes, eyebrows, nose, nothing to describe the form of the nose, just the nostrils, lips. All right, now look at the drawing on the right. You can see that they were looking at themselves from two mirrors. So she's looking at one mirror, at a mirror behind her, or to the side of her to look at the side of her face or the back of her head. And look at the line quality here. Again, she's using the blind contour line drawing to search. She doesn't know the answer. She's just putting the pencil point to the paper, looking at herself and drawing, trying to focus on how she's drawing, getting that line quality in there, and using the line to search, coming back and erasing, pushing things around. I mean, that's how you get that sort of uh, vague, foggy value that's being cast around her head here. That's from things moving and shifting. And look at this, 10 hours. So if you really want to work on line quality, one of the best places to do that with is, or one of the best mediums to do that with is etching. So here's an etching I did. This was from life. Etchings are in copper plates. You use a needle to draw, and then you put an acid to etch it out. Take some ink, fill the etched lines in with ink, and then you print it on paper using a press. And if you really want to focus on line quality, the great medium to use, a great artist to look at that used etching is Francisco Goya. And the line quality he was able to achieve with that medium is fantastic. And we can have that same sort of line quality. We can make that the same goal when we're drawing our contour line drawings. There's another etching I did, really just focusing on line quality. And that model, that pose right there actually came from a life study I did using pastel and charcoal. So you guys can take inspiration from the classwork drawings that we do and actually use them as the starting point for your drawings outside of class. Model or student example, self-portrait using mirrors, really focusing more on the hands rather than the face, but create an interesting composition out of it. Another student example of this homework series, self-portrait and skeleton, really just focusing on a couple reference lines and contour line drawing, using a little bit of ink wash to separate some spaces. Here's a student that came in, probably thought he was really good at drawing, did this 4-hour self-portrait. Again, really just looking at eyes, nose, and mouth. Made some sort of attempt to draw the nose. Came in the next day and did a contour line study for 22 minutes. That is just infinitely better. Really just focusing on using the line to look for what's actually happening rather than drawing what he thinks is happening. Student example, drawing the skeleton, hand and arm. Same thing, drawing their own hand. Look at the line quality. Look at how they've described the shifts and planes in their own hand and arm. Drawing a sheep skull. Notice how many times this thing has changed and moved, right? And they're just using just contour line. Right? Started with a pastel gesture and then moved right into contour line, drawing it over and over and over again. Here's this student's first self-portrait, and this is where they started off with. Uh, not knowing a lot about drawing, came in 3 weeks later. They started drawing like this, using the side of the pencil, looking for points, taking some simple measurements. Came in with some contour lines, started really figuring out what the model was doing. Again, looking for intercross, looking for those points. Same student did a little diagram in the bottom left corner, trying to figure out what they were going to draw and how they were going to draw it. And by the end of the semester, the student could draw, a full setup and really capture what was happening. Again, student's first self-portrait came in very stylized. Probably thought she had some skill with this sort of illustrative way of working. I showed her how to look for points, how to draw reference lines, how to start drawing without looking at the paper. Already making a huge jump here. Here she's looking into one mirror, then also drawing herself from two mirrors in that self-portrait on the right there. Contour study of the model, and then she imagined a skeleton in there with a colored pencil. And then she did her final self-portrait and skeleton series in etching, actually. So here's the self-portrait. Again, look at how many times it's moved around and shifted and changed. Look at that line quality. And she was a rock climber, so she included some of the stuff that she enjoyed doing as themes or motifs, and that's something that you guys can inject in the work if it's what helps keep you interested. And now this is what her work looks like after the class, doing these paintings and drawings, using all these same things. Reference lines, contour line drawing, looking for points. Students first drawing on the left, later drawing on the right, using ink wash as a sort of gesture. First drawing on the left, second drawing on the right, using just a real simple gesture, real quick, real light line gesture, and then coming on top of that with blind contour. Same student, doing a blind contour line drawing. Look, they never picked the pencil up once drawing that blind contour study on the right. And then their final drawing. Skull in the bag. Been lots of drawings of a skull wearing a bag at UCF. Here you can see that same thing. Reference lines, measurement points, drawing of the hand. That hand is drawn exceptionally well. And here's another one, bag in the skull. You really should look for strange points of view. That will help you more than anything. Try to set it up in a way that you have to actually look at it, like this student did here. They really had to look to see the shape of that jaw compared to the shape of the nose, compared to the shape of the eye sockets, compared to how that bag is coming out towards them. All of that was probably a very difficult challenge for them, and you can see how things have moved and shifted around, but I'm sure they learned a lot from doing this drawing. First drawing on the left of the model, not too bad, but it's kind of stiff. Now using the contour line drawing to be a little bit more expressive, putting the bag on the head, looking at themselves from two mirrors. Again, looking at themselves from two mirrors, another self-portrait with the bag on their head. And here's my drawing with my bag on my head using just gesture and contour line drawing. I'm sorry I don't have a better picture of this. I actually cannot find this drawing, unfortunately. But from this drawing, you can just see it was basically all blind contour line drawing. Just started off with maybe some simple measurements of the height of the head using that point of the bag there, maybe. That's a little darker. Looking for the side of my head, drawing the eye socket itself before drawing the eye. All right, you can even see that at this point I was drawing with one eye closed to help me really focus with one eye, looking at the looking for contour lines. Student example, setting themselves up as block A, block B, block C, thinking about their head as block B, their torso is block A, and the bag is block C. And the student really took to block building, really worked out well for them. So here's a block ABC study of the skeleton using some straight lines and contour line drawing. Again, block ABC of the skeleton with contour line drawing right on top. That's the sort of line quality we're looking for. Another block ABC gesture with an uh, contour line on top of that. And you can see how the contour lines have started being used to describe what's happening inside the model's torso, what's happening inside the leg, trying to draw the elbow. Again, all drawn blind. You can see how things have been moved and erased and changed. More block A, block B, block C. Using free-handed straight lines to look for the shape after getting those initial measurements down. And this emphasis on shape will really help you guys out if you really focus on drawing the shapes lightly, drawing them sort of freely. You know, a great artist to look at for this would be Ewan Uglo, who used shapes and free-handed straight lines to really set his drawings up. You also look at his teacher, William Coldstream, who did the same thing, and they used points and straight lines to set themselves up, just like we're doing, using the intercross. Another student example, self-portrait in the skeleton, all just blind contour. First drawing on the left, later drawing on the right, study of the skeleton. Another student example, all contour line drawing, self-portrait in the skeleton. Really want to focus on line quality now. So focus when you're drawing those contour lines, really want to have that pencil point straight, perpendicular to the surface of the paper, have a sharp pencil, and really be looking for every little nuance, not trying to speed through it. It's not about finishing. Many of these drawings that you've seen so far are unfinished, and that is completely okay. There's no need to finish it. Look here at this completely unfinished skeleton on the left here, just with that beautifully drawn foot and leg up into the pelvis. The rest of it is just sort of left as a gesture, just some straight lines to look for the shape. That I'd rather see a drawing like that than a drawing hastily tried to be finished but done badly. First drawing on the left, study of the skeleton on the right. Again, another unfinished one, just looking for points and then developing it into contour lines. Look at the line quality of these drawings. Look at how they're trying to describe every little thing that they see inside, not just the major contours of the edges of the nose or the eyes or the teeth. They're trying to describe everything within those cheekbones, everything within the top of the jaw, everything they can see, using the act of drawing to help them see. Another student, great line quality, started using ink in their final drawings. So this is ink wash put on top of their drawings probably after they were done. Same thing. So feel free to use ink wash if you feel comfortable with it. Here you see a student using what I think is watercolor. Look at their first self-portrait. Right? They weren't even sure how to draw. By the end of this, they were focusing really, really clearly on all those little negative shapes in the ribs, the negative shape between the bones of the arm, through the bones of the vertebrae. Looking for everything they could see there. Student example from last semester, really having fun with paint. So doing these studies of the skeleton and then, copying that shape over in paint, just having fun with it. Same thing here, student example, self-portrait and the skulls. I'm making shapes up, having fun with paint. This was life size, so that's actually 3 pieces of Arch's buff uh, right on top of each other. So this thing is what, 44, 66 inches tall. First student drawing on the left, later drawing of the skull or of the ribs and the pelvis, the whole skeleton there. Great drawing, beautiful drawing, really sensitive line quality, kind of moving from soft to dark, looking for all those points in the bones of the leg and all those shapes made by the rib cage. Rib cages are great things to draw. You could spend a lot of time just drawing rib cages. And here you can see that the assignment here was 2 skulls on top. The 2 skulls on top were drawn from imagination, right? Drawn from memory. They had no skull to look at. So I asked these students, this is probably about halfway through the semester, I asked them to try and draw a skull from imagination. And that's the best they could do on top. And then the skull on bottom is actually drawn from life. And you can see the difference. When we try to draw what we think we know, it comes out much worse than when we actually look at something and draw it the way we see it. Right? Same problem. 2 on top from memory, 2 on bottom from observation. Same thing here. Look at the difference. Here's my first self-portrait. Right? Actually, this was my final self-portrait in community college, and I thought this was great at the time. But look at the sort of one note line quality again, only looking for sort of verbal stuff, eyes, nose, mouth, not describing any of the form. Feels very flat, very naive. Even the facial expression looks naive, and I'm not really sure why I drew a beer hat on myself, but did it for fun, I guess. Uh, at this point, I kind of moved away from art because I didn't think I could get any better. I stalled out here, and that's probably where a lot of you feel like you were coming into this class. Like maybe you felt like you couldn't get any better at drawing. I really believe that drawing can be taught, and it's not this talent thing. You can actually learn to be better at drawing, very much as I did. I switched majors for a while, went into business, didn't like business, tried to come back, went for animation here at UCF, as many of you are studying, and this was modeling for real-time systems. I think the class at the time where we had to learn the basics of Autodesk Maya, and I did a model of a camera, a lighter, and a picture frame, and I spent just countless hours on this thing thinking this will save me. I don't have great drawings, but I'll get into the program by making a great animated scene here, or not animated but 3D model scene. And I applied with this and the drawings that I had made at a community college, and I was rejected. I was told to go back and take drawing 1 and 2 here at UCF, and learn how to actually draw. and then maybe I could get back in the following year. So that's exactly what I did. Went and retook drawing 1 and 2 here, and just like you guys, I started being taught inner cross, reference lines, contour line drawing. I had no clue what the heck these guys were talking about. Like, I mean, look how confused and messy and just ugly this drawing is. You know, that sort of sketchy line quality here in the of this model there. All right, starting to kind of figure it out. I could at least draw like the shapes of the doorway and the I think this was the wall, you know, have a sense of this person drawing. I was actually drawing another student drawing, and you can see this sort of gesture and points laid out here where you start to see something happening. But even then, I was really quite confused about what was going on. So here was my midterm drawing for drawing 1. Again, total mess, full of pastel, absolutely full of it. And just trying to figure out what the heck these people were talking about. You know, look at the line quality here. At least I had that going for me. I really committed to putting the pencil point on the paper and not looking at the paper. It was difficult, certainly. I had a real hard time making anything look like anything, which really discouraged me. But you guys got to push through that, just like I was pushing through here, because eventually I started to get that pelvis on there. I could at least draw the boxes using measurement and a straight edge. And then I started setting up still lifes like this for myself to study from. So skeleton, cow skull, tape, sheets, and here's the drawing in progress. You know, using just gesture to lay it out initially, trying to fill in that block that painter's box fits in, that wooden box, and then this is what that drawing eventually ended up with. Using the pastel to sort of highlight the tape. And I didn't even finish the skeleton on top, right? It's just kind of left there as a ghost. That's all right. Again, setting things up in weird angles, right? Not trying to look at it just the same old basic way that anybody else would, and make a drawing like this. Really just focusing on line quality at this point. Self-portraits were done from 2 mirrors, so that's how I was able to look at the side of my face or the back of my head. And even drawing from photographs. So this interior was from a photograph. The little figure at the bottom was from a photograph, right? And drawing from photographs isn't necessarily bad, but if you want to do that, just make sure that you are drawing from that photograph just the same way that you're drawing from life. Putting your pencil point on the paper, trying to follow it, thinking about form, thinking about it being three-dimensional rather than a flat photograph that you're copying. And I was just terrified of just a blank sheet of white paper. So to start off these drawings, I literally threw ink at it. I threw coffee at it. I think that's, you can see like the brown stains. All this is ink. I did come in on top with a brush and brush it out and just marred the surface to give myself something to then work on top of, right? To break up the whiteness of a sheet of paper right off the bat. You can see I started this off with a gesture and a self-portrait that was supposed to be over here actually, and then I redid this. So did this self-portrait from 2 mirrors and then drew myself in 1 mirror looking out at that, right? And just use the same thing, pastel, plotting points, line contour. That's simple. Look at how I'm describing the shapes in the face, the beard, right? At this time I had a little mohawk going on. That was fun. Self-portrait in the skeleton. So this is another example of mine really looking down at the skeleton here. Great. I think this is a great example of contour line drawing of the skull, right? Self-portrait, not so great. Right? I think 1 hour in, it was probably better. You can see all the points using straight line inspection with the red pencil to sort of set the shapes up so I knew where everything was. A little bit later, still, I think, better drawn. Probably ended up overworking it towards the end. That happens, right? But the skull and the rib cage, I think, is really shows you guys what uh, kind of line quality we're looking for in this drawing program here. self-portrait, looking down into a mirror. Again, just pastel, contour line drawing. Even started cutting things out of newsprint, so you can see the cuts here, and then taping the back of the newsprint to create these sort of strange compositions. So I was just having fun with it after making my initial study, trying to find a way to take it and make something more out of it. And again, look at how I'm describing the parts of the face, the cheek, the eye socket, not overemphasizing the eyes, the nose, or the mouth over any other part of the form. It's all important. The whole form is important, not just the stuff we can name easily. Yet again, setting things up at strange angles, so looking down the skeleton, making a drawing that looks like this, and then finally like that. Had a skeleton hanging up at one point, drawing the self-portrait just using a ruler and straight line inspection. Again, this was ink and pastel all over a piece of Arch's cover to sort of break up the surface, give myself a surface to work into that I could erase out of. Even starting to kind of use the pastel as a sort of value, so I can kind of highlight the skull here, and again, look at how that nose seems to wrap around, come out. This the bone of the cheekbone seems to stick out in front of the jaw. Are not overemphasizing teeth. Another skeleton set up, hanging on a easel in a mirror. And these drawings are composite, so I would draw the skeleton first and then come in and draw a self-portrait later. Again, thinking about composition, I wanted to draw myself looking into the mirror, looking at the skeleton. Student example that actually a student I went to the class with me, uh, drawing the cow skull on top. Even again, doing that sort of composite view where this was the same model drawn, same pose, same class period, but drawn multiple times from different points of view on the same sheet of paper. This drawing, this was a classmate. Her name's Jordan. She was using points to lay everything out, and those points became the beginnings of her contour line drawings, as you can see in these later drawings of hers. She laid out all the points, and they sort of be, really clearly started showing her where all the contours were at, and all she had to do was draw that line. Another example, and here you're going to see another student doing that same thing, really laying out every little point they could see, and it just sort of builds the contours for them, and then all they have to do is come in and carve it out with a beautiful line. Another example, just points and contour line drawing. Right, these were some drawings I did. You can see right there at the bottom it says 20 minutes. So these are relatively rapid, right? Moving quick. That's probably one of the things that everyone needs to do is just move faster. Think less and move faster. This was a 15-minute pen drawing, just using points and line. That's it. And these were all done when I went to Austria. I won a prize to go study in Austria for a couple weeks. So I was studying up in this castle up here on a mountain, and we were in this studio like this, just working, drawing the model, just very similar to what you guys are doing. Again, here's a drawing from Professor Heron, looking for these points using gesture, blind contour line drawing. Another one of my self-portrait and skeleton. Another self-portrait, imagining the pelvis inside of me, even sort of having fun with abstraction. So I set up these straight lines, trying to describe what was happening in the torso, and then I actually decided to stick with it. Used hatching lines to just kind of make it flat. And look here at how the face is described, all the shapes, the nose, the mouth, the beard, eye socket, even thinking about how the head is a box. The head is going to exist inside a box. It's got a front, it's got a side. So I actually drew that and just had fun with the sort of abstraction that was happening out of that. And that's what it looked like around 3 hours in. So this was an extended drawing for sure. Another self-portrait using vine charcoal to lay in some value, lay in the initial gesture, which became value. Had a sheet on my head, sort of like this makeshift turban almost, looking for all the shapes in there, trying to describe the shapes in my face, using more straight lines here rather than blind contour line drawing. And all of this studying of drawing really helped me when I went to go do sculptural studies. So this was a self-portrait study that I did of my own head. And if any of you guys that want to do 3D modeling, you'll find that studying things from life, drawing is really going to help you when it comes to trying to make something three-dimensional, right? I'm trying to teach you guys how to think about things in 3 dimensions, how to draw like sculptors. And so when you eventually do go to sculpt or digitally sculpt, as modelers will, as animators will, you'll find that it clicks a lot easier after doing this. And this was my home studio, my last semester of undergrad and after. And you guys see, I was living in a little studio apartment, and I pushed my bed off to the corner, had my easel in there, had a drafting table in there, pinned stuff to the wall, and just worked on art, nonstop as much as I can. You can even see a skull with a bag on its head, right? And here's, again, 20-minute study right down here, just using free-handed straight lines coming in, taking some big simple measurements, and then starting the contour line draw. And that's 20 minutes of drawing. So everyone needs to just speed up a little bit and work a little faster. It's really going to help you. Right? Just lighten your hand and draw faster. And while I was doing this stuff, I was working on drawings from imagination. So these are little tiny drawings that were done on little sheets of paper. I encourage you all to be doing this sort of thing on your own time to keep drawing it from your imagination. And also doing bigger drawings, right? This was a composite drawing where I would draw stuff on little drawings and then copy my own drawings on this bigger drawing in my studio. So this is roughly 4 by 8 feet, 4 feet tall by 8 feet long. And you can see a whole variety of ways that things are drawn using pastel and ink. Also doing a lot of studies in my drawing book. So here are some gestures of people in public. This was people at a public pool. People sitting, really just doing quick studies using some value hatching lines, some longer studies, all in my drawing book. So this was the sort of way I was collecting information that I could then use to draw from my imagination. And drawings like this, small drawings from imagination. And here's some more recent work. This was 2018. Big drawing slash painting on canvas, and kind of taking everything that I learned at that point and synthesizing it and trying to make my own voice out of it. Even moving into painting. So this is oil paint. Thinking about artists I really liked this time I was really thinking a lot about R.B. Kitai, who could draw really well, made these really strange paintings, and so I kind of take compositions from them, and I encourage you guys to find artwork you like and to use the compositions as your starting point. Some more work of mine. Really exploring how different things can be drawn, so full of gesture, full of straight lines, even coming in here and rendering things with value. And finally, to end on a high note here, the person to look for always is Da Vinci, right? Someone that could really draw just absolutely beautifully. I got to see this drawing in London. If you're ever in London, uh, really suggest you go see it whenever we can travel again. Um, and it has the full range of drawing in it, right? From soft and subtle, sort of using the pastel and charcoal to render value, right, to this quick and simple gestures, beautiful line quality, are very expressive. Uh, so if you're looking for some inspiration, I really suggest you go look at Leonardo da Vinci's drawings.